This episode of Alternative Discussion West is brought to you by Del Taco.
All right. Welcome back to Alternative Discussion West. This is your host, Ryan Bakes, bringing you in for episode 6. Excited to have my guest today. We've been friends in this punk scene for probably the last 5, 6, 7 years. Today I introduced to you guys Jared Stinson.
Hi.
Hey, what's going on, Jared?
How you doing?
So everyone probably knows you. Most of the listeners are going to know you from Sic Waiting.
Yeah.
The band you've been playing with for, we're talking over 15 years now.
Yeah, too long.
And if not, they may have caught you recently on the tour with Dead Frets.
Yeah.
And that's been going on the last couple of years.
Mm-hmm.
So we're going to talk about both those bands in great detail here in just a moment. But first, where did it all start at? Where were you born, Jared?
Southern California, born and grew up in Orange County, and until I was 18. So grew up, went to high school there, everything.
So born and raised, SoCal guy.
Mm-hmm.
How's high school? You end up, what's the name of the high school you go to?
Santa Margarita was a private Catholic high school.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Catholic boy.
Yeah, not really.
How was that? So it's private school, is that just a male-only school?
No, it was co-ed, but we had uniforms, and it was
really?
pretty strict. It was a good school, you know. I mean, looking back on it, you know, I don't think it was much different than a public school would have been.
Sure.
Except
How many
for maybe
students?
The strictness, like 2,500 or so.
Oh, so big school.
Pretty big, yeah.
That sounds cool. So you end up going to high school, Catholic school. Is that where you pick up the guitar?
Yeah.
So is there bands in high school?
Yeah, one band. I started playing guitar like at 14 or 15. I found an old guitar that my dad had in the attic, and I just started like messing with it, and then got some lessons. Actually, I told my dad I wanted to play guitar, and he said that I could use that guitar, but I had to get lessons.
Is that an electric guitar?
No, it was a classical guitar.
Oh,
so
okay.
I got
With
classical
the big, thick
guitar
strings?
lessons. Yeah, nylon strings, thick neck. So I had classical lessons for the first year or so, which, I mean, what I learned in those lessons has definitely actually stuck with me a lot as far as like finger playing and different independent digit work. You know, I mean, I can't really solo or shred, but I can do some stuff that maybe like a normal bar chord player wouldn't
have experience
I
with.
like it. It just gives it like my own spin, I guess.
So you start taking those lessons when you're in high school?
Yeah, I was like 14 maybe. 14 or 15.
And then when's the first electric guitar come in?
About 16, right when I could drive, and I saved up some money and
went and got the
El
Cheapo special.
Yeah, got a Strat. Yeah, and then started a punk band.
Oh, that's cool. What was that band called?
First it was called Second Best. Then it was called Artificially Flavored. Then it was called Agent 83.
So 3 names, 1 band.
3 names, 1 band.
I like the artificially flavored.
Yeah.
It's got a good ring to it. So are you guys playing originals? Are you doing covers?
Both. We had some originals. I wasn't really the leader of that band. This guy, Colin, who was actually in Sic Waiting, too. Colin was later down the line. But I was just playing rhythm guitar and doing some backups and stuff. But we had some originals. We also covered, like, La Bamba and Brown Eyed Girl. But the way
some
Lagwagon
really
did
early stuff.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, it wasn't even the Operation Ivy covers. It
No.
was
No.
the classics.
In SoCal, it was more the Lagwagons that strung out No Effects. You know, Op Ivy is up here with you guys. I mean, I listened to Op Ivy for sure, but we never tried to really play that style at East Bay.
So you were playing early on, you were listening to those records, Lagwagon records.
Yeah. I got turned on to everything, actually, by MXPX. Mike from MXPX. Like, I saw MXPX play at a church on the Teenage Politics tour.
Wow.
They had just graduated high school, and they were still like that kind of Christian band, which everybody still gives them shit for, you know, these days. But they were doing which is kind of warranted, to be honest, because they were touring churches, getting paid well probably, and didn't really come up the same way other bands did. I think that they've stuck with it pretty well. But I met him at that show, and I was talking to him and just telling him I was just getting into punk, and he wrote a list of bands for me to listen to, and it was No Effects and Rancid.
Really?
Bad Religion, yeah.
So Mike turned you on to all the music that has stuck with you for 20 years.
Yeah. And then, like, when I got to know Mike later down the line, this maybe a couple of years ago, I told him that story.
And did he recall that?
No. But he was happy to hear it.
No, yeah, that's awesome to think that he actually took the time to sit down and like, hey, check out these bands. And those are the bands he brought up,
Yep.
He wasn't go for an obscure references. He was telling you some good bands.
Yeah, absolutely. All the bands I still listen to today.
Well, that's awesome. So you get out of high school. What year is it you graduate in?
99.
1999.
Yeah,
all right.
back in the day.
Party like it's 1999. You graduate high school. And that's kind of where you were telling me the party kind of starts and ends when you head to college.
Yeah. I went straight out of high school. I went to Cal State Chico.
And so is that on a scholarship or that's someone's paying the bill?
No, my parents paid for college for me. I dropped out of college and went back too, but only because I didn't have to take out loans, and they would have paid for it. So I was pretty fortunate as far as that goes. I took it for granted in the beginning for sure.
Yeah, I think we all do, especially if your parents are offering to front the bill.
Yeah. I'm glad they did. I wouldn't have gone back or graduated had they not,
So what's the experience at Chico State?
Oh, I didn't give a shit about Chico State.
Yeah, that was just you rolled in.
Can I cuss on this?
Oh, yeah.
Okay, cool. I was going to say, I'm pretty sure I heard Shrum cussing. But
you can't contain that man's mouth.
Oh, let me tell you, this is an X-rated podcast. I can tell some stories.
We'll have to bring you back on that one.
Yeah, Chico, I was 18, man. I wasn't ready for college. I just went there. I lived on campus. And
Did you go there because it was known as a party college? Is that what called to you?
And they were one of two schools in California that had a recording arts, like a good recording arts program. The other one being USC, that I didn't even apply to because there was no chance of getting in. But Chico had one, and the plan originally was to go there and kind of work my way into that program. But I just went there and partied.
And so your interest straight out of high school was to start recording music.
Yeah, I was really interested at the time in actually engineering and recording stuff, and I was doing it on my own at the time too, on just a little 8-track digital, like at the beginning of digital recording. It was
super lo-fi.
Yeah. I still have it. The songs are terrible, but I was trying to figure it out.
Do you still have the recorder?
Yeah, I do.
Really?
Yeah.
Wow.
I listen to it every time I move my crap from storage unit to storage unit. I pull it out and listen to the songs.
What did that record onto? Tape?
No, digital.
It recorded.
It was onto it had I don't even remember how big the hard drive was. I could get 6 songs in there with 4 tracks each.
I had
it
a friend
super primitive.
It must have been 98 or 99, and he was recording his band that I just loved at the time, and they recorded onto. It was a digital recorder, I guess, but it all recorded to a tape, to a cassette tape.
Cassette tape, yeah.
He could record 4 or 6 tracks onto a cassette tape, and everyone would set up and record onto that. And I was just always blown away. Some of my favorite songs back then from that.
Sure.
Very, very cool. So you do enlist in those programs at Chico State, the recording
Well,
programs.
if I had stayed there, I would have gotten into the programs. But because I was going straight out of high school, the first couple years of college are general education anyways.
The first 2 years,
yeah. So I wasn't into any of that stuff. I wasn't enrolled in any of that stuff at Chico. I did some recording there with a guy who was in the program and recorded just some of my own songs and had some other people play instruments on them in the building. But that was as close as I got to it.
To engineering and everything at Chico State. So you're there for 6 months. Mm-hmm. That doesn't work out.
No.
It's time to go.
Yeah.
So, and you said you got a letter from the dean, or?
No, I got a letter from the residence hall director.
And he just said, this isn't working out, or we better part ways.
It was, we'd prefer you don't come back next year.
Wow.
Kind of thing.
And that was it, huh?
I still have it, yeah.
And that was good enough for you? I'm done.
I was already leaving anyways. I was on academic probation, disciplinary probation. It was just time to go.
Yeah. So you end up heading out. So that's about the year 2000.
Yeah, that's 2000.
You pack up, you head back south.
Yeah, I transferred actually to Cal State San Marcos down in northern San Diego, which is how I ended up in northern San Diego.
Okay.
And then I did 1 semester there, and I still wasn't going to school or doing anything really, so then I just stopped.
Yeah, that was enough there.
Yeah.
Okay, so that lands us in about the year 2000, and that's when Sic Waiting comes to be. And what's the first incarnation of this band?
Well, when I moved to San Diego, I moved to San Marcos, which is in northern San Diego, inland northern San Diego. I was just driving around the city at the time looking for a rehearsal studio because the internet wasn't what it is today. You couldn't just say, where's the closest one, and find it. You were kind of searching it out. So I came up to this studio, and which is crazy that I even found one just driving around, to be honest, but I did. It was in the back of this industrial park. There was a little wooden sign out front that said Offstage Rehearsal Studios, I think was what it was initially called. And I drove back there, and this dude, Mick, owned it, and he loved the color purple. Everything was purple. He had a purple Harley parked in the lobby, and I was like, all right, I'll start jamming here. So I would rent a room and just jam by myself on my amp. And
Just guitar.
Yeah, just guitar. And then shortly after I started doing that, my buddy Darren, or this guy Darren, bought Mick out of the studio and changed the name to Goblin Studios. And I became friends with Darren, and Darren and I started...
The new owner of Goblin
Studios.
Studios.
Yeah, the new owner. And we started Sic Waiting together. He was playing drums, and we found another friend I had made down there, this guy Fox, who now lives in Kansas. We started Sic Waiting. And then the guy Colin from my first band in high school, he came down and joined.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
He moves down to San Diego?
He didn't move. He was just driving from Orange County.
Just coming?
Yeah, he joined.
What were you guys rehearsing, once a week at that time?
No, we were probably rehearsing like 3 or 4 times a week because we were kids, didn't have anything else to do.
You're fresh out the gate. It feels good.
Yeah,
right?
yeah. We would just party at the studio. I mean, the studio became like a lifestyle, like Darren and I spent all our time there. And the studio became a pretty big deal in North County.
How many rooms were in that
Started
studio?
with 3, and then at the height of Goblin, I think he had 24.
And they were all booked?
All booked all the time. There were some monthlies. There were like 6 monthlies, I think, and the rest hourly. He had a recording studio in there. It expanded pretty quick. And then there was a fire that burned down the recording studio in the middle of a Sic Waiting record. Actually, we lost everything. And we lost all our gear.
This is recording the first record.
It would have been the first full length. Yeah, this is like in like the mid 2000s, I think. I don't remember exactly what year.
So Goblin Studios did last a while.
Yeah.
You started there in 2000.
Mm-hmm.
You got the Sic Waiting name. You got the band rolling. But that studio ended up lasting a couple
lasted
years.
a while, yeah. I kind of made my exit from the studio after 10 or 11 years or so, and it went on for another couple years, and then Darren closed up shop. Darren was in Sic Waiting a couple times, as was Colin, actually. Darren started it with me as the drummer, and then a few years later we switched with this other band that was at the studio called the Jack Tripper Solution. We switched drummers because their drummer was better for our kind of music, and Darren was better.
And both parties were cool with that.
Yeah, we were friends.
It's all good.
Yeah, so we did that for a while, and then Darren came back to Sic Waiting and played bass for a couple years, and he's on the first record, or first 2 records maybe. I don't really remember.
So the first record the first recordings that are lost in that fire,
Mm-hmm.
was there any gold there?
Probably not.
Was there anything there that you even would wish you could hear?
Yeah, I think there were. I have one, like I found maybe a year ago a file that was like 3 or 4 of the demos from that session, and I listened to it, and I saw like what I thought was good at the time in those songs still, but not a chance in hell I'd ever like try to redo them.
Yeah.
Because it's not the identity of the band now. We've changed a lot.
Sure, and no production
For
there.
sure. But yeah, and I mean all different, well, I guess people doesn't really matter since we have so many members, but all different people. Colin, he recorded that first record, but then he like quit, and then he like got a tattoo of Sic Waiting on his wrist and came back and joined and quit again. And so we were just going through all this flux and
that's
trying to
still
get a
at the same
record
time as that when you're recording you said the first 2 Sic Waiting records are self-released records.
Yeah.
And that's all in that time period.
Well, the first, yeah, it is. Yeah.
That's all 2005 to 2010, somewhere in there.
Yeah, I think God, I should have brushed up on my dates. I think the first record, Your Name in Lights, came out in 2000. Shit, dude. 5?
Somewhere there. And that's available to listen to on Bandcamp now
it's
today.
online.
You can find that.
Maybe it's 10. I don't even know, dude. It all blends together.
And then the second record was called?
Anchors Astray.
Okay, so those are the first 2. Those are self-released records by Sic Waiting.
Yeah.
At that point, is there touring going on?
A little bit.
Just
I was
kind of
trying to figure it out, as far as the circuit goes. We weren't going far, but we were doing like Vegas and Bay Area, and that kind of radius was about the extent of it, I believe.
That was good. Okay, and were you starting to land some of the shows with the bigger names at that point?
Not really.
Or was
I mean,
this
we
still
played
very
like
early?
some festivals, but it was like pre-sale shit, like shitty deals for local bands that they were using to finance paying their headliners. So, I mean, we did play them, but not because we were good enough or anything. It's because we were willing to pay to, like idiots.
Pay to play,
Yeah.
Or go
But we
sell
did
us
like
tickets.
some, by doing that, we played with like Ignite and Strung Out and Death by Stereo and all these bands that
Got to
now,
play with a lot of the cool SoCal bands.
now we're playing with together, And,
yeah, clubs rather than
Yeah.
festivals where you're paying to get on it.
Yeah, but nothing really too significant. I mean, the first like 10 years of the band is sort of, I mean, it's important because it, it's the history, but sort of lost like in the sense that we didn't have a lot of direction.
There's just those 2 records to show for it.
Yeah. Well, I mean, we self-released a couple of EPs, like self-pressed, burned the CDs, stuck the labels on.
Handed them out.
Yeah. And, with any luck, they'll never surface again.
See the light of day.
Yeah.
We won't be able to find those and put those up on YouTube for you to listen to.
Let's hope not.
So that's the first 10 years kind of there in Sic Waiting, like you said, in a nutshell. In those 10 years, that's where you built your roots. That's where you had to have learned a lot about the industry or playing shows.
Sure.
And then you started, at least dreaming of getting on the road a little bit more.
Yeah.
At that point, you're only doing Vegas, you're doing Northern California. You're just kind of getting in and around. Mm-hmm. So we're going to take our first break there. We're going to come back and hear more about what Sic Waiting's done over the last 10 years, which is a lot more exciting.
I guess.
And, a lot more to talk about there. And then we're going to get in a little bit later into Dead Frets and talk about the tour that you were just on here on the new album. Cool. That was just released with Felony Records.
Once again, there are joy clouds coming in as the angels call to collect on our sin. What's even left of this God-forsaken mess? Circumcised, battle cries, a couple songs and fuck the rest, or so we say. It seems I'm fading faster than my disaster. Each time we get it right, we came right after. One thing I've learned, without a fire and a burn, and I admire all you bastards, but I won't turn or repent for the lifetimes that we spent as clouds are hired to sanitize and wet cement. If I've learned one thing, it's that everybody leaves. Everyone will leave my way. I've come to terms and I can see I've got a ghost of good times following me. It seems I'm fading faster than my disaster. Each time we get it right, we came right after. One thing I've learned, without a fire and a burn, and I admire all you bastards, but I won't turn. It seems I'm fading faster than my disaster. Each time we get it right, we came right after. One thing I learned, without a fire and a burn, and I admire all you bastards, and I hope you're getting yours, but the lifers getting worse, and I won't turn.
All right, we are back here with my guest, Jared Stinson of the band Sic Waiting.
Yo.
And we've kind of heard the first 10 years of the band from 2000 to 2010. You guys kind of finding your wings, finding your feet on the ground. And so in 2011, 2012, you guys start working with Dang Records.
Yeah.
Which probably is right around the time I met you guys.
I think so.
And probably first seen the band.
I think first time we ever were in the same area might have been Way Out West Fest.
Yeah,
in Arizona.
We were at the first 2 Way Out West
so were we.
Fest. I feel like that's kind of where a lot of these bands we all kind of found each other.
Yeah,
and
I think so.
If anything great came out of that festival, I think it was a lot of the connections that were made at that time. So many of these bands were all found around that time. The great Billy Brooks.
Yeah.
So 2012, you guys released Vices.
Mm-hmm.
And that's kind of the sound that Sic Waiting that we're familiar with now.
Yeah, I think so.
It's getting there.
Yeah, I think you were hearing a lot of it in 2010 when we did Anchors Astray.
It's coming along to that.
Yeah.
To the signatures that we're used to.
Yeah, I think so.
On that on that album.
The 2005 record, Your Name in Lights, is as far as I'm concerned, kind of I don't know, primitive maybe. It's just, I don't know. There's a lot of the fast stuff there, but there's not really like attention to detail like I try to make sure there is in the newer stuff.
As there is now. So that comes out with Dang Records. Do you meet those guys at Way Out West Fest? Is that where you met that label?
No. No, I think it was DC Fallout that did a release with them too. We just follow DC Fallout from label to label.
Wherever they go, it
Yeah.
seems like good enough, huh?
Yeah,
Good
I
enough
think
for
they
me.
did a release with Dang or something, and then I was trying to find a home for Vices, and I talked. I think I'm remembering this right. I talked to Mike, I think, from DC Fallout, Scott's brother, or maybe I talked to Scott. I don't know about Dang, and they were just telling us, that they're into it. The guy that runs Dang, Sean, is a great dude. So I talked to Sean. He was into it, and then, we had Vices, I think, pretty much done.
Yeah, they put out some cool records at that time. I remember
Definitely.
they did one of the Why I Hate records.
Yep.
It was a 7-inch that came out that was really cool.
Yeah, and they did like Stabbed in Back.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
A great band.
Mhm.
And it didn't last all too long,
No.
unfortunately.
Sean now is a documentary filmmaker. I mean, he's still doing Dang, but he made the Fat Records documentary. A Fat Wreck, that's Sean from Dang
Yeah,
Records.
he put that all together.
Yeah, yeah.
I ran into him with the Fat Record 25th anniversary
Oh, yeah,
in
cool.
San Francisco. You guys had a hand in that by adding a song to their soundtrack.
We did Tilt.
And did that make the record?
It's on
The vinyl that came out?
Yeah, well, there's two soundtracks. There's the one with like the official soundtrack of the movie, and then they did the one that we're on, and a bunch of other bands are on, covering bands from Fat pre-2000s era. And Shell Corp, I wanted to do a Wizzo song, but Shell Corp did it, and they did it better than we could have ever done it for sure. But then,
So hats off to them.
yeah, and then I was like, well, what can we do that wouldn't be really expected? Because everybody would think we would do like a strung out song or a no use song or something. And I love that Tilt song, and I love that band. Cinderblock has still, in my opinion, the best punk female singer that I've ever heard.
One of the great singers of punk rock.
Yeah.
You know?
So we did the Tilt song, and it came out really, really great. I still like it a lot. I sent it to Cinder, actually, and she was pretty into it, too.
Oh,
which
really?
was cool, yeah.
She enjoyed it?
Yeah, I think
That's
so.
cool. She's from out here.
Yeah, I know.
Bay Area.
Yeah.
Very cool. So with the records coming out on Dang, is that when Sic Waiting kind of starts touring?
Yeah, that's when things get a little more solid as far as the actual touring goes. And we did a national, I think, on Vices, or we did a national before Vices. We did like a month and a half, and we did the whole U.S. and just got our asses handed to us. And then a year later, I think that was before Vices came out. I could be wrong about all these dates. And then it came out, I think, and then a year later we did the Nation again, but in 3 months.
Wow.
So it was crazy to go out for that long, but that made it affordable.
Just to keep going.
Yeah.
Just to
Yeah,
roll.
like it sustained itself because we doubled the amount of shows we were playing and cut the drives in half.
Yeah. that was simple
But we were out for
mathematics.
3 months, and it was insane.
Wow. And that was on that record, Vices.
Yeah.
Wow. So that's kind of, that's got to be where you pretty much meet everyone that you
Yeah, that was a big turn.
throughout the States and
Definitely.
doing that much hard touring. I mean, that definitely is quite a testament to your guys' band to keep up those kind of,
Yeah, it was crazy, dude. I mean, the lineup that we had at the time, I think that tour pretty much killed it, to be honest. Because going out for that long, and none of us really knew what to expect for that long. And on the level that we did, like, we didn't have a backup plan. We didn't have a credit card. We didn't even have AAA, We were just relying on every show to get us to the next one. And it did.
just getting
'cause-
enough gas money and a place to crash.
Exactly. Yeah, we had no backup plans. Or if anything went wrong.
Nobody had a bank account.
No. We start a new life in, Omaha if something goes wrong.
Yeah, wherever the van breaks down, that's where you now live.
Yeah, exactly. So, but doing that, it was like us against the world kind of feeling. So yeah, it was cool. And we all learned a lot for sure about, each other and about touring and about the right ways to do things and the wrong ways to do things. But that was definitely a turning point.
And that's around 2013, 2014.
Yeah.
Just doing these huge tours.
Yeah, I think it was 2012 that we did the month and a half, and then 2013 that we did the 3 month, I think.
So you laid a
All
lot of
these days
groundwork
just
in those
blend.
years. Yeah, I could imagine, like I was saying, with the length of the band span
Yeah.
and trying to put this all together is definitely the hard part here to stay on with.
Yeah, man.
But so you do the two just very large tours with Vices,
Mm-hmm.
and then that comes into around 2014-15 when you get ready to release Highway Miles.
Mm-hmm.
And at that point, is that when you've hooked up with the guys from Decent Jerks?
Well, the Decent Jerks guys, Shell Corporation actually hooked me up with them because they needed to rent a van and a tour manager for a tour that Shell Corp was doing with them in the States.
Okay.
So I did that. They rented my van.
And that's how you
I
met those guys?
That's how I met those guys initially, yep. And then they came back again the next year, and I tour managed them again.
Okay, yeah, and
So
I know we played a show with them on one of those tours.
Yeah.
And that gets into,
They're
those guys
awesome.
are from Puerto Rico.
Yep.
Great guys, fun band.
Yeah.
And then that gets into where Sic Waiting ends up touring Puerto Rico.
Yeah. Yeah.
getting
Last
into that.
or 2 years ago, right after Derailer came out, we did the West U.S. and then we did Fest in Florida, and then from Fest we went to Puerto Rico and did the week in Puerto Rico with Decent Jerks. Decent Jerks also did Fest, and that was insane. Awesome.
And that was a good time.
Oh man, it was a party. We only did 3 shows. The island, you don't really do more than 3 shows in Puerto Rico.
All of them had a good turnout.
Yeah, 1 was like an average turnout, and 2 were great.
Really?
And they were all just a lot of fun, and the people there are super awesome, really gracious, and they
Not
were
a ton of American punk rock bands probably going
no,
there.
not a lot, So they were just stoked to have a band come in there from California, and then like I was saying, in the pre-show, a lot of them had like done the research and knew the records, the catalog probably better than I do in this interview.
Yeah.
Knew the words, and bought merch, and were just really cool, really supportive. I still get messages from them, all
When
the
you
time.
coming back?
Yeah,
A lot of that.
a lot of it. Yeah, they're awesome.
Hopefully you can make that trek back. Yeah, definitely seeing, a band and friends of ours going over and playing Puerto Rico. It's like, man, we got to find a way to do that. Now
Dude,
that's
it's super doable.
Yeah.
It's definitely doable. We were saying again, like a lot of the stuff that's out of the ordinary that we've done isn't that hard. It's just a matter of figuring out a way to do it,
Yeah, and just making it happen.
Mm-hmm.
So that's all done on Derailer, which is the
Yeah.
big full length that comes out on Felony Records. That was in 2015. I
Mm-hmm.
remember there was a build up to that album, where there was a lot of press about it before
Mm-hmm.
coming out. And then I know I got a copyright when it was released. That comes out on Felony, and that's kind of established you guys as a great working band in the scene.
I think so. Yeah.
And I think so. That was a great record. What went into making that record? I mean, you write all the songs.
Yeah.
I mean, all
Yeah,
the way
well,
through.
initially, yeah. I mean, I write them and then bring them to the table to the recording lineup, because Sic Waiting has a huge lineup. It's not like this core group of 4 dudes that.
Yeah, for our listeners that are trying to follow all the different
Yeah.
names you're putting out, Sic Waiting is kind of band that exists with 10 or 12 members.
Yeah. Yeah.
And it's just whoever's available and whoever wants to do the shows when they're around.
Essentially, yeah. It's because the older we get, the harder it is to have that. To find a peer that's able to be in your band and have that level of dedication that I'm looking for, able to leave. Everybody's
2,
got jobs,
3, 4 months out of the
families,
year.
Yeah. So Sic Waiting, I have a list of people depending on the tour or the shows that are coming up that I hit up to actually do those things, and then I'm the only constant as far as that goes. So in writing, I write all the songs initially and then bring them to the table. Like for Derailer, we had Anthony from the band Lowbrow, who was in Sic Waiting for a while and still works with us. He was the other guitar player, and so we demoed him together. And then my friend Jason, who's in the band Parade of Horribles, and still does work with Sic Waiting. We needed a bass player, so he came and did bass on it. And then our longtime recording drummer, Brian, who's actually been on every release that we've done since 2005, actually. Did the drums on that too, but he rarely plays live with us because he's a pilot in San Diego.
Oh, cool. But he's still the go-to for the drums.
Yeah, he does the recording.
Yeah.
Yeah, but our other drummer, Andrew, who's in Southern California, is also the drummer of Lowbrow, Anthony's other band. He's a great drummer, does a lot of work with us too, and he did the Tilt cover. And,
Okay, so he's been on
it's
some
always
of the Sic Waiting recordings.
Yes, yeah. It's always just seeing what people's schedules are.
It's just kind of an on-call list.
Kinda, yeah.
You know?
Dave, our tour drummer, who's done most of our touring, Dave lives in Vegas, so he plays in a million bands. Guilty by Association, Rainer, or Called Home. Whenever we have longer tours, he has a job where he can kind of come and go and still have work when he gets back. So he does a lot of the touring. So yeah, it's just kind of like punk rock by committee.
Yeah,
Sort of.
and I think it's just like going back to what we talked about in Puerto Rico. It's kind of making something happen.
Yeah.
Even when the wheels are falling off, it's like, no, we're going to find somebody else. We're going to keep this thing going.
Yeah, absolutely.
And
That's how it's been for the last 10 years. It's just whatever it takes to keep it going. I've just made sure to do it.
Yeah, and I think it's worked out, really well for you guys. So it's last year is when you guys make your first appearance at Punk Rock Bowling.
Yeah.
And that's on the main stage.
Mm-hmm.
And that kind of ties into a lot of the tour managing you've done.
Yeah.
and we will get more into that. So playing punk rock bowling, one of the main stages. What's your experience in doing that? I mean, that's got to be pretty exciting.
It was awesome. Yeah, it was exciting. It was first time being nervous before a show in a long time. For sure.
10 years or so.
Yeah, because the stage is so big. And I mean, we played fairly early. We were second in the lineup, but there were still a lot of people there. It was still 1,000,000 degrees outside.
Yeah, I think anytime you play that festival, it seems
yeah,
like, every time I've been out there, it's just melting.
Yeah, dude.
I mean, it's killer.
But it was cool. We really wanted to just like not cause waves. We didn't want to fuck anything up. We just wanted to put on a good performance, get on, get off, and get out of the professionals' way, and I think we did. I was happy with how it came out. Like I said, there were some nerves in the beginning, but we settled down. And it's quick, like 20-minute set I think we had, or 25. So
yeah, 3 or 4 in the afternoon.
Yeah.
Kind of just kicking it off. You got some people there that were probably hammered from the night before.
Oh, yeah.
Still hurt.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, like I said, that shows that you're definitely on the right track, with the band, landing those bigger gigs. I mean, you guys have played with everybody in between all that. Coming up for you guys, you said you're going to be back at Punk Rock Bowling this year.
Yeah. Yeah, we're doing a pool party this year for this Laboratory Clothing. They're one of the sponsors.
And that you were saying is a promotions company kind of out of San Diego.
Yeah, clothing company, and they put on a lot of bigger punk shows down there. Strung Out, Good Riddance. I mean, they have a whole bunch of bands that they bring there consistently, and they just promote the hell out of those shows, and they're always successful, a lot of fun.
Do some good shows out there.
Yeah, they do. They definitely do. So yeah, they got a pool party day there at PRB, and we're doing that with Street Dogs and Starving Wolves.
And that's at the Gold Spike.
Yeah, all the pool parties this year are at the Gold Spike instead of the Plaza.
Okay, they moved. Yeah. Were they originally at the Gold Spike?
Back in the day, they were, yes.
Okay,
yeah.
And then it was at the Plaza for a few years.
Yeah.
So that's for Punk Rock Bowling. All of our listeners that are going, make sure and catch these guys, as they'll be they're at the Gold Spike pool party. What day is that? Saturday or Sunday?
Our pool party, the Laboratory pool party, is Saturday, the 27th at the Gold Spike, and then Monday is the Felony Records pool party, also at the Gold Spike. That's with the Dickies and the Crowd and Strike 12.
Wow. Okay.
Yeah.
Cool.
And then Sunday is oh god, I'm blanking on the name. Shit. Sunday's another pool party.
So don't miss out on the pool parties. You will catch Jared at all 3 of those.
Yeah, you will.
Hanging out around the
getting my tan on.
Pool, having a good time. Yep. You can't beat that. So coming up for Sic Waiting, you said you're working on another new album.
Yeah. Yeah, in the middle of writing it right now.
Mm-hmm. And that you're hoping to have done this year sometime?
Yeah, I'm hoping to at least get it tracked by the fall. That's the hope, anyways. I got to finish writing it, which is tough to do when I'm on the road all the time. But I got some time coming up, I think, where I won't be traveling as much. So in that time, I'm hoping to get it written or finished written.
Get into the next Sic Waiting record.
Yeah.
Awesome. Well, we're going to take another quick break. We are going to come back and talk a lot about Dead Frets. We're going to get some stories from you tour managing from bands like Conflict you were talking about, Angelic Upstarts. You were on a recent NoFX tour with Useless ID.
Yeah.
So we will talk about that here in our next segment. We'll be right back with Jared.
I guess it's true what they say about the brokenhearted. 'Cause from my window I can see a light in darkness. They speak in cliche like better days are coming. But I know better, so when I hit the ground I'm running. We don't have to spend the rest of our time living in shells of a former life. Our days are counting down, let's try to get it right. Nothing proud, nothing discovered me. But back here in the claws of family and friends, I found a resting place and never left again. We don't have to spend the rest of our time living in shells of a former calm down, we're gonna be alright.
All right, and welcome back. We're back here with our guest, Jared Stinson of Sic Waiting,
Hi.
and of course, the great Dead Frets. We're going to talk a little bit about what you do for work outside of playing music, and that's tour managing.
Yeah, for the most part. I also substitute teach.
Oh, wow.
Threw that one on you, didn't
A
I?
whole nother, yeah, wow, we didn't get that in the pre-interview.
Yeah. Maybe we shouldn't talk about that.
Yeah, don't mention what school you're at.
Dude,
So tour managing, you said you've done bands like Conflict, Angelic Upstarts.
Uh-huh.
And what's the day-to-day in that when you're taking on a job like that?
It's really anything and everything, man. I mean, everything from advancing shows weeks before the tour even starts, to driving, to running merch if it's needed, to settling contracts, to making sure everybody's getting along.
Getting the payout at the end of the night.
Getting the pays, yeah. I mean, it's really everything except actually playing.
It's all the stuff that, all the crap.
Yeah. It's a lot of work. I mean, I really enjoy it, and I think I'm really good at it, but it's a lot of work. It's more work than most people think.
So rolling with a band like Conflict,
Mm-hmm.
there's probably some pretty big shows
Yeah.
on those tours.
Yeah, they draw still.
At least 300 to 500 people or something at some of these shows.
Yeah. In LA, I mean, we played a show in LA, no stage security, and there was like 600, I think we did 680 or something through the door. It was crazy. It's on YouTube somewhere.
And at that point, you're on stage with the band.
I have to be, yeah, because there's no stage security, so the only protection on this like 1
And
foot
everybody's
rise-
getting on stage, putting their arms
Yeah.
around the guys,
Yeah.
jumping off the stage.
It's insane. I got kicked in the throat at the show I'm talking about right now.
What
Like,
venue was this at?
It's in LA, Los Globos.
And this is just packed.
It was packed with all these just street punk kids, man, that live for Conflict. I mean, they love them, and they're just going crazy. No, nothing malicious, just they're going nuts.
Yeah.
You know,
It's just
I got
kids
kicked
going
in the
wild.
throat hard. This thing, I was down and out.
But you enjoy that side of it.
Yeah,
Getting up on stage. You're in the action. You're not playing, but you're seeing a different side of it.
sure.
Because you're able to really.
I'm looking
intently
for a
watch the
band that's
crowd.
making these kids that weren't even alive when this band was starting or playing shows at the Clash. These kids weren't alive, but they're
going nuts.
Yeah, they're going crazy. They still relate to this music intensely. I love that. Yeah, I love being whatever small part of that band is at the time. I like being involved.
Yeah,
with
exactly. You're a hand with
Sure.
that band. So you also said you were out with the Angelic Upstarts.
It. Yeah,
And both these kind of connect us back into punk rock bowling.
Yeah, well, both of those were the first tours I did for both those bands were punk rock bowling tours.
So you're doing the West Coast with them, and then
Yeah.
is it starting or ending with punk rock bowling, or is it somewhere?
It
in the middle?
varied.
Yeah.
Sometimes it was in the middle. Like I started tour managing just because I owned a van. So
And
people
everybody's
would
looking
wanna-
for a driver.
Yeah,
Or a
they'd
van
wanna-
to rent.
A van, yeah. They'd want to rent the van, and then sometimes I'd get asked to help book or ask for advice in cities, and I was just like, I'll go with you. I'll TM it, help you book it. And so I was doing like friends bands and smaller time stuff, like Western settings. I did them early on a tour with Success, and obviously my own band I did Nothington when they toured with Lawrence Arms. But then a friend of mine, John Scheimer, who works for Numbskull Productions in California, he was double booked, or he got asked to do 2 different tours for a punk rock bowling tour, and obviously couldn't do them both. He was working for Off, I think, at the time, and then he got asked also to do Angelic Upstarts and couldn't, so referred me over to Mark Stern, and I got hired for that tour. And this is back in like 2012 maybe, or 13.
And that's
something.
your first interworking with the Stern brothers.
Yeah,
and
yeah.
and hanging out with those guys.
Yeah,
and
it
figuring
went
stuff
really well. And so the next year I did Conflict, and then Conflict came back later that year in the fall and hired me again. And then Upstarts came back last year, so I did them again. So punk rock bowling kind of got me rolling with those bands.
And you've built a good relationship with both those bands.
Absolutely, yeah, we're buds. They're great bands. They're a lot of fun to tour with. I mean, they're older, they've been around a long time. They have some great stories, and they're not, they're there to do a job for sure. Like they're all business.
But they're still having a good time.
They're having a great time. Yeah.
They're loving it.
Especially Conflict.
Yeah.
They're party, man. They party hard. I mean, they're both having a great time, and they're both, consummate professionals too. I've never seen either one of those bands put on a bad show.
And then when you were running recently, I think it was into last year with Youth Society.
Yeah. I was tour managing Youth Society on the tour with NoFX in pairs across Canada and the U.S., western half of the U.S.
It was about
pretty
20
much.
dates or so.
Something like that. Yeah, it was like beginning of about 20 days, November 1st to like 24th or something like that.
And what was the experience watching NoFX every night and watching those guys work?
It was awesome. I mean,
Yeah.
there's a million stories that everybody's heard about No Effects, you know, so I didn't really know what to expect in that, like, intimate atmosphere, I guess, touring with them. But, I mean, the one thing that they are, if nothing else, it's just a well-oiled machine. I mean,
A professional when it comes
Yeah.
to the tour
Absolutely.
aspect of it.
They do everything professionally, whether it's playing or traveling or partying. It's all professional. You know,
Yeah.
I mean, it was rad to watch them, the band and the crew. You know, the whole traveling group. I learned a lot, I think, just watching them operate, and everybody everybody was great at their job. First of all, whether it was merch or guitar tech or whatever,
sound engineer.
Yeah, and I mean, it was all the names that everybody knows. You know, Kent was doing sound and Wrigley's doing guitars, you know, and everybody's doing their job and staying in their capacity. And then you have their TM, Steve Garrett, kind of overseeing everything. But they all really did their job to the utmost efficiency, you know, and they were just a really well-oiled machine.
And then perform great every night.
They did perform great every night, yeah. I mean, I've seen shows that were less than great, you know, from No Effects, but I didn't see any on that tour.
Yeah. Well, that must have been a good time.
Yeah.
And Pears, Eustace ID, both great bands throughout that tour.
Absolutely, yeah.
Yeah.
Both those bands killed it, man. It was so much fun watching both those bands every night too. I mean, it was just three awesome bands. You know, we had Belvedere on the bill for like 3 shows in Canada too. Another one. I mean, it was just
And every show sold out.
pretty much. I'm not sure if every single one sold out. I think
But you've got a full capacity. Pretty
absolutely.
Much
Yeah.
There's
I mean,
no duds on this tour.
No. There's 2,000 to 3,000 kids a night.
Yeah.
It was packed every show.
And it's just excitement all the way.
Yeah, intense, man. It was so much fun.
Well, that's cool. I think the tour managing has definitely served you well. I mean, with not only the connections that you've gotten through Punk Rock Bowling,
Mhm.
allowed your band to play, you know, and then also getting to meet all those guys and hang out with, the likes of No Effects and Pears and
Yeah.
Society and become friends with those guys.
Yeah, it's awesome. I mean, they're all great dudes, and like I said, I think I learn a lot from watching how each one operates. Dante from Pears is a fun dude to watch.
Oh,
like,
yeah.
running that band.
I've met him a few times on the road.
He's the man, but he also, you know, he's got his shit under control.
Yeah, he runs a tight ship.
He does. Yeah.
He's a wild man. Right on. So, I mean, that's always, sounds like that's got to be a lot of fun doing the tour managing.
It is fun. It's a lot of work for sure, but a lot of fun. I mean, once in a while you get those, like, get them to the Greek moments.
Yeah, you were
know,
saying you had a
stressful
moment with a conflict, right?
Yeah. When they played PRB, it was like, I don't know. I mean, they were maybe second or third billed on their day at the festival or something, so they were playing late. They were close to headlining, and I just remember being in the tent behind the stage, and it's like 20 minutes or so to set time, to stage time, and Jello's back there talking with the Conflict guys, and I'm looking around the tent, you know, and I don't see Colin.
And when you're tour managing, are you having beers? Are you having a good time, or are you more focused?
Sometimes more than I probably should be, but
Yeah.
I'm getting my job done a lot of the time. That's probably a better question for the bands I've worked for.
Yeah, I mean that's all that really matters.
Yeah. I mean, I there's a lot of work to do, so it's a matter of making sure that you're not screwing up any of the work, and you know, I don't think I have.
So just before
But
showtime,
normally I try to keep it under, pretty under control
Yeah.
until the work is done for the day. But the Conflict guys, I mean, everybody parties within reason, but I was looking for Colin and didn't see him, and I'm
we're
asking the
15 minutes
guys
to showtime.
Yeah, where's Colin, guys? I don't know, mate. So I sprint back to the hotel, and I had kept a room key to each room just in case this happened. And so I'm at Colin's room, and I'm trying every room key, and
You've got
finally
4
the
or
one
5 keys
works.
there.
Yeah, finally it works, and I open it up, and the room's all dark, and Colin's just taking a nap in his underwear. And I'm like, dude, we gotta go. You're about to go on stage. He's like, okay, mate, be out in a minute.
And just stands straight up and
Yeah, just pops up, puts his clothes on. We book it to the site, and he just shows up. The band's there getting ready, walks directly on stage, and just kills it.
and just crushes.
Yeah, and I'm on the side stage, just in my head being like, oh my God.
I woke the guy up 10
That was
minutes
so
ago.
close. Yeah. Because, I mean, he doesn't show up. The whole thing is thrown off. I'm out of a job. I never work again, for sure, because it's my job solely to make sure that doesn't happen.
That these guys are on stage at the allotted time.
Yeah.
They need to be there.
Yeah, so thank God it worked out. Man,
It can
but
get
that
a
was-
little tough with
that
some
was
guys.
stressful.
No, that's a great
That's part of the gig, I mean, it keeps it exciting, I
Yeah,
guess.
and that's probably how he wants it,
Oh, yeah.
Pull him straight from the bedroom to
Yeah, that's-
throw him on stage. He has a good time. He goes out and parties all night.
Yeah,
and
it's
life is
entirely
good.
in character for Colin, man. First show of that tour, I think it was in Santa Ana at the Observatory. Excuse me. With GBH, I think. Anyway, he fell into the drum riser and lacerated his arm.
Oh,
It was
Lord.
bleeding all over the place. And the whole tour refused to get it like attended to, refused to go to a hospital because
Just bandage it up and keep going.
Yeah, well, they weren't. I don't know if he was necessarily supposed to be in the States. I don't know if you can say that, but yeah, he just bandaged it up. And every city we're going to, people are like, "You need to take him to the hospital." I'm like, "Dude, he won't go."
Yeah,
And,
offers on the table. But.
Yeah, I think we actually ended up having the medical staff at PRB dress it finally when we got there.
And put some antibacterials
Yeah,
on
the whole
it.
time he didn't give a shit. He's just like, "Yeah, whatever, mate. Give me some chips."
Anything upcoming for the tour managing?
Nothing on the books. This is the first year that I'm not TMing anybody for Punk Rock Bowling, which is nice and you know, a bummer at the same time. I like the work and I like meeting the new bands and whatnot.
Yeah.
I'm sure I'll pick some stuff up through the summer or maybe into the fall if it works around the Sic Waiting schedule. But I've been touring this year in the spring, which would have kind of conflicted with that. No pun intended.
Yeah.
But on the books, nothing right now. I'm talking to a couple bands about some tours in July and August time, but we'll see if that materializes.
So like you said, you've been busy the first half of this year doing the new Dead Frets album.
Yeah.
So Dead Frets it's an incarnation of Sic Waiting, but it is just you.
Yeah.
And it's more folky.
Yeah.
More classic Americana, just an acoustic guitar, you know, for the most part, and you know, just simple songs, you know, but good songs. That comes to be in around 2012. And where does that come from? It's just the call for it. You wanted to perform alone.
I mean, I was talking with my buddy Matt Salkild, who's from Bakersfield and used to be in a band called Black Sails Western
Shout
Shores.
out to Matt. Yeah, I think some of our listeners will definitely know Matt. If you've ever played Bakersfield
It was probably Matt.
and
Matt probably booked
Sandrini's,
it.
Matt just may have booked you.
Yeah, so he wanted to do an acoustic tour. I wanted to do an acoustic tour. And then both of us had agreed that doing an acoustic tour and just playing our band songs would be pretty lame, like a cop-out, you know?
Yeah.
And I had a few acoustic songs already that I had just written, you know, just out of nowhere. And so we
Just
both...
didn't fit the band structure.
Right. So we both made a point to make a record. And I made Sell Silence, and we toured it. You know, so... and then
So that would be the first incarnation of the Drunks Go Acoustic Tour,
Yeah.
which some on the West Coast might be familiar with.
Yeah. That's a stupid ass name, but yeah, I remember I think it was my idea of the name, but I wasn't that into it, and then I was taking a shit, and he was like just bugging me, like, we got to name it? What are we gonna name it? Drunks Go Acoustic, and I just remember being like, fine, Drunks Go Acoustic.
Good enough.
So he just wanted to get the work done.
I think first hearing it, I go, that's just dumb, you know.
Yeah.
But now it has stuck.
It was accurate as hell. I mean, all we did it for was to tour, play some songs, and get some free drinks.
Drink,
and,
crash on couches.
Yeah, you know, and it worked for what it was. It was good. We took, you know, we did a number of different Drunks Go Acoustic tours. With a number of people, like Lowbrow went on one, Brock from the Core in Vegas went on one, Brandon from Mercy Music went on one, who's sober. This guy Jansen went on one. Jan from Shell Corp went on one. You know, we did it, and we had a lot of fun. It was just partying and playing some music. You know,
just playing
name
wherever
sets,
anyone
but,
would
you know.
have you and having a good time.
Yeah, it's a good time.
So that ended up, you and Matt ended up doing a split album.
Yeah,
And that's the AA album.
AA, yeah.
And is that named after AA, as we would think, the program that...
Well, yeah, I guess all acoustic or, you know, working the program. Yeah, and it fit with the DJA stuff.
Yeah. It
So,
just seemed
but yeah, we each did 6 songs.
And those are songs, are those together or those are separate
No.
songs? Okay.
Separate. Yeah, I did 6, he did 6, and we put them on a record.
And just throw a full length together on that to kind of keep the ball rolling with
Yeah.
the Drunks Go Acoustic. And,
Yeah, it was the
and
same format again. You know, a year or two later, we put that out and then toured it again.
And
Did
then,
a tour through Denver and like the whole western half of the U.S. that time.
And all of it went pretty well.
Yeah, those tours always do pretty well, just because we have friends in every city.
Low overhead.
Very low overhead.
Yeah, just with you two guys
Yep.
rolling. So that lands us with the new album, True South, that's out now on Felony Records. So listen to that. Great record. I think you've got some really pure songs on it.
Thanks.
That is, you just got done doing the West Coast. Would you do 2 weeks on that?
Yeah.
And last night you were in San Francisco.
Yep.
We can say that. How was that show?
It was great. It was
You
a
had
lot of fun.
Chris from Build Them to Break.
Yeah.
Joey Balls, our buddy.
Yeah.
Jen.
Yeah.
And Brian Moss.
Yeah.
So
Yeah, it was great. Great lineup. You know, like that lineup has so much talent in it. Everybody was
and kind of all over, you know.
Yeah.
With a good eclectic group there.
Yeah, it was a lot of fun. We were trying to get Karina Denike on it too, who I met on the NoFX tour and had been talking to, but her drummer had another show in the city that night. So I think we'll try and get her next time. But I want to get her and Jay from Nothington, who's in Europe now for Grows Rock. But I want to do that lineup with those two also added to it next time back through and just make it like, some of the best talent in the Bay Area.
Of all over SA.
Yeah. Actually, I was talking to Sean, too, from Civil War Rust, your band, about playing that, too. But he didn't know if he was going to be in town for it, so wasn't able to commit.
I think he's working on a solo record now. So
oh, man.
he might be on the next one.
Yeah.
So True South, where does that record come from?
Most of that stuff was written in like a short period of time last spring and summer. I was going through some personal issues.
Yeah, it seems like there might be a little bit of dark overtone in there.
Yeah, it's a pretty dark record and depressing, I guess. I don't know. I made a point on this record not to like be too concerned with how I'm saying something or with what, like, lyrically being too, I don't know, sappy or vulnerable, I guess, and just kind of made more snap decisions on keeping certain things that in the past maybe I would have edited or said in a
keeping it
different
kind of
way.
as it comes.
Yeah.
Letting it flow.
Yeah, sort of. Instead of being like, well, that doesn't sound too punk or too cool, instead of that, it's just like,
got to be a more clever way to say that.
Yeah. So I just said fuck it for the most part on to that thought and just kind of let everything stand. And wrote and recorded that record last summer, actually, in a pretty short period of time, like I said, in the middle of all this bullshit I was going through. And then immediately after recording it, went on tour with Usus ID. I went on tour with Forrest Pookie from France. And then from that, went on tour with Usus ID and NoFX. And as I was on tour, Daniel and Anthony from Lowbrow, who recorded the record, were back home producing it and like
mixing
adding
it,
some stuff.
you.
Yeah, added some bass and solos and some percussion stuff and sending me mixes on the road.
Overall, you're pleased how everything came out on that record?
Yeah, it's the most detached from any production I've been on any record I've been involved in.
You just went in, laid down guitars and vocals.
Wrote the songs, went in, laid down guitars and vocals, and then made the calls after they had added or taken stuff out or told them what I wanted in different scenarios, like percussion-wise or with additional music.
So you kind of produced it from being on the road?
Sort of, yeah. Yeah, but I wasn't there to like make every call, which is a good and a bad thing. I think it was a learning experience for sure because I was not at the helm, for that part of it.
Yeah.
So it was different, but overall, I'm very happy with how it came out and how it conveys what the songs are.
And that came out on Felony. That's out available. CD. It's
just
available.
CD right now.
Okay.
Yeah, I'm not sure if they're planning to do vinyl or not. I love the artwork.
Yeah, I think it's a beautiful.
Which
album.
Chris from Build to Break actually did it. It's super
simple.
simple.
Oh, really?
Super simple, but I'm a big fan of it. Me too, man. He's an amazing artist.
I like everything he puts out. Yeah, it has a simplicity, but also kind of a fun look to a lot of it.
Mm-hmm.
And
so that's on Felony. It's available digital and CD.
So what's next for the Dead Frets?
I got a couple more shows this week. I'm playing, they probably will have already happened when this comes out. I got the show with John Snodgrass and Brian Wallstrom down in San Diego in a couple days. Brian McPherson on Saturday. And then I don't have any Dead Fret stuff in the works because I'm trying to get the Sic Waiting stuff done this summer. There's talk of doing another tour in August with Matt, possibly. But you'll have to stay tuned and see if that...
you're going to pull him off the couch, huh?
He's the one that wants to do it, actually. It won't be called Drunk Skull Acoustic, though.
Yeah, be another
anymore.
Incarnation. So you've got a new Sic Waiting record coming. You guys got shows at Punk Rock Bowling.
Yeah.
The record just landed, True South, the Dead Fritz record, just landed on Felony Records for everyone to pick up and listen to.
Mm-hmm.
I want to thank you for coming out and doing this.
Thank you, man.
I think you got quite a history there. I hope we were able to piece it together.
Yeah, somewhat. I mean, it's a learning experience for me, too. Going back over it all. I forget most of it. I should mention there, I should also mention where Sic Waiting is playing in June at this thing that Jason, our sometimes bass player, puts on in San Diego called Punk Rock Food Drive. And
excellent. You guys have been involved in that over the last few years,
for
right?
a number of years, yeah. And it's really great nonprofit that he does. It just raises money to get meals for the homeless. He does it every year around Thanksgiving and then sometimes does this summer one, and this year he's doing it. So Sic Waiting is headlining that.
And you know where that's being held at? In
June at Iron Fist Brewery. I think it's June 12th. I'm not really sure. You go to punkrockfood.com and you can get all the information on it. But it's always a great time. They have auctions and everybody wins a bunch of stuff from the surrounding companies that support it, and they've raised a ton of meals for the homeless in their history, like a lot. He and his drummer Chris from his band Parade of Horribles are the ones that do it.
And they'll be playing that also.
Yeah, they play it too. They're radical. It's like those guys are like Primus meets Black Flag.
Wow.
They're a two-piece too. It's crazy.
So a lot of cool things coming up for Sic Waiting. Anything else you'd like to bring up, while we're here? You said you might be back at Fest this year.
Yeah, I think we can say that. I mean, they announce it next month, but or I guess this month. We're in May, huh?
Or May 1st.
Yeah, we didn't make the first announcement, but we are playing Fest in Gainesville this fall. We're doing. We might be doing a cover set. I don't know if I guess I should mention that just yet, but keep your eyes open for that. But Sic Waiting is doing a set as well, and then chances are we'll probably be doing some shows around that in similar areas, like we have in the past, like touring the Caribbean.
Right on. So there's plenty of places for you to catch Sic Waiting, whether it's on the East Coast or West Coast, maybe even abroad.
Maybe.
And once again, Jared, I want to say I appreciate you coming out. Anybody want to find you? Where do they go? Just all the regulars, facebook.com/Sic Waiting.
Yeah, if you can get to everything if you just go to sicwaiting.com, SIC-waiting.com, which I hate, or deadfrets.com. It'll all lead you to everywhere else on the internet, or Instagram or Facebook or whatever. Just /deadfrets or Sic Waiting.
And it's all there.
Or Deadfrets suck is some of it. I don't know. Just go to the .coms.
Any last words for our listeners?
No.
Right on,
thanks
man.
for having me, man. It's
Thanks
been a great
again.
time.
Yeah, no, it was a lot of fun. Thank you.